In this video, we are going to be having a basic introduction to inequalities and their graphs. An inequality is a mathematical sentence that uses an inequality symbol, like in the parentheses there, to compare the values of two expressions. So the less than inequality symbol is right here, the greater than inequality symbol is below that right here, and then the less than or equal to inequality symbol is right here, and then the greater than or equal to inequality symbol is right here. So let's look at the inequalities as an example. Here we have 2 is less than 5, so that's how you would represent it using an inequality and in words. 5 is greater than 2, so that's how you would represent it using an inequality and in words. X is less than or equal to 3, so notice how there's a bar underneath the inequality, so when we have less than or equal to, we have a bar underneath the inequality, and that's how you would represent it using symbols and in words. And then next we have 3 is greater than or equal to x. Once again, we have a bar underneath the inequality, and that's how you would represent it using symbols and words. So next, let's look at graphing inequalities. If we have less than or greater than, we are going to be having open circles. And if we have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we are going to be having closed circles. So let's look at our first example. We have x is less than 3. So that is going to be an open circle at 3, which means that 3 is not a solution to this inequality, and we are going to be shading everything less than 3. So that's going to be how we would represent it on a graph. Next, we have x is greater than -1. So that's going to be an open circle at -1, which means that -1 is not a solution to this inequality. And then since it's greater than, we're going to be shading everything that's above and greater than -1. So that's what the graph is going to look like to this inequality. Next, we have x is less than or equal to 2. And so since it's less than or equal to, we're going to have a closed circle at 2, which means that 2 is a solution to this inequality, and we're going to be shading everything that's less than 2. And so that's what the graph is going to look like for that inequality. Next, we have x is greater than or equal to -4, and so that's going to be a closed circle at -4. And then -4 is going to be a solution to this inequality, and we are going to be shading everything above that's greater than -4. So that's what the graph is going to look like for that inequality. So we're always going to want to try to rewrite the inequalities where the variable is on the left. It becomes much easier to graph. So for example, we have 2 is less than or equal to a. Right now the variable is on the right, so it's kind of hard to know how to graph it. So to change it, I like to look at the inequalities as an alligator, and so the alligator always eats the larger number. So in this case, the alligator is eating a, so a is the larger number. So if we were going to rewrite it to where a is first, we're going to have a is greater than or equal to 2. So these are identical inequalities. They're just written in different ways. And notice that the alligator is still eating the a, like up here, and then the 2 is still less than. And so now it's much easier to graph this one. So we're going to have a closed circle at 2. And since a is greater than or equal to 2, it's going to be everything that's to the right of 2, so anything greater than 2 will be shaded. And that would be the graph to this inequality, or both of these inequalities, since the inequalities are actually the same. So now let's look at how we're going to write the inequality given the graph. So first we want to look at where the circles are located. So in this case, it's located at 0, and it's not shaded. It's not filled in, so it's an open circle, so it's either going to be less than or greater than. And then let's look at where the line's shaded. It's everything greater than 0. So I just picked a variable, so x is greater than 0. So that would be a sentence that we would write for this graph, and then to represent it as an inequality, it would look like this, which is x is greater than 0. And notice that It's an open circle, so there's no bar underneath the inequality. The next one, we have the circle at -2, and it's a closed circle, so that means it's going to be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So let's figure that out. So we have a closed circle at -2, but everything greater than -2 is included, including the -2. So z, I just picked a variable, is greater than or equal to -2. And to represent that using an inequality, we would have it written like this. Z is greater than or equal to -2. And we have the bar underneath the inequality since we have a closed circle here at -2. The next one, we have, once again, another closed circle, and this is at -3, so it's either going to be a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to inequality. And since it's shaded everything less than -3, it's going to be, I just picked a variable p, is less than or equal to -3. Since it is closed circle, it's going to be or equal to. And then when we write the inequality, we have a bar underneath the inequality. So p is less than or equal to -3. So that's how we would represent that graph as an inequality. And then last, we have an open circle at 4, which means that it's either going to be less than or greater than. And look at how the graph is shaded in. So it's everything less than 4, not including the 4. So w, I just picked a variable, w is less than 4. So to write that as an inequality, it would be w less than 4.